Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving into a really cool topic today, how U.S. cities are using AI to solve problems and just make life better for everyone.
Yeah, this is a fascinating area. I mean, we did a ton of research for this, and there's so much going on. It's mind-blowing.
It really is. And it's not just like sci-fi stuff anymore. Like it's actually happening right now in ways you might not even realize.
Right, exactly. It's impacting things like, uh, traffic and safety, even things like sustainability.
Yeah, and it's not just like one or two cities either, right? We're seeing this like wave of innovation all across the country. It's pretty exciting.
It is, it is. And I think one area where we're seeing a lot of activity is in transportation. I mean, let's face it, nobody likes traffic.
Oh, tell me about it. But what's really cool is how AI is being used to like actually improve things. Like, did you know that Pittsburgh has like AI-powered traffic lights?
Yeah, it's called SurTrack. It's really clever. What it does is use these machine learning algorithms to analyze traffic patterns in real time and then adjust the timing of the lights to just keep things moving smoothly.
So instead of those like fixed cycles where you're sitting at a red light even when there's no one coming the other way, the system is actually like adapting to what's actually happening.
Exactly, yeah. And the results have been pretty impressive. I mean, they've seen travel times go down by an average of 25%, which means, for some people, that's like almost an hour back every week.
Wow, that's a lot of time. Imagine what you could do with an extra hour every week. That's amazing. But it's not just about like saving time, is it?
No, there's a big environmental impact too. By reducing congestion, cutting down on idling times, they've managed to cut emissions by about 20%.
So it's a win-win for commuters and for the environment. Now that's what I call a smart city.
Absolutely, yeah. And we're seeing this kind of innovation in other cities too, like Chicago's using AI to, make public transit routes better.
Oh, that's interesting. How does that work?
So they're using AI to predict demand for buses and trains,
Hmm.
like based on real-time data, and then they can adjust the schedules and routes just to make things, more efficient and more reliable.
Yeah, I could see how that would be huge for people who rely on public transportation, right? Like it could really make a difference in their daily lives. But let's switch gears a bit. What about public safety? What role does AI play there?
Well, this is an area where AI is already having a big impact, but it also raises some really important questions.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What kind of questions?
Well, take New York City, for example. They have a massive network of surveillance cameras, and some of them have facial recognition technology.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Definitely a controversial topic.
For sure, yeah. There are definitely some concerns about privacy and potential misuse of that kind of tech, but it also has the potential to help locate missing people and maybe even deter crime.
It sounds like finding the right balance is key there between, security and individual rights.
Absolutely. Now, on a completely different note, Los Angeles is using AI to, predict crime hotspots.
Predict crime. How is that even possible?
So they use this software called Predpol, and it analyzes historical crime data, looking for patterns,
Hmm.
and then tries to predict where and when crimes are most likely to occur.
So it's kind of like a weather forecast, but for crime. That's fascinating.
It is, yeah. And it means that law enforcement can allocate their resources more effectively and maybe even prevent some crimes from happening.
Okay, I'm sensing a theme here. It seems like a lot of these applications involve like analyzing tons of data to find patterns and make predictions.
Yeah, you're right. Data is really the fuel that drives all of these AI systems. And speaking of data, that actually leads us to another interesting example, waste management.
Wait, AI is being used to manage trash?
Oh, yeah, for sure. San Francisco is a good example. They've got these garbage bins that have sensors, and those sensors monitor how full the bins are. Then AI comes in and figures out the most efficient routes for the garbage trucks.
So instead of just driving around on set routes, the trucks are only going where they're actually needed.
Exactly. Saves time, saves money, AD reduces emissions.
Amazing. Who knew AI could revolutionize garbage collection?
Right. But that's the beauty of AI. It can be applied to such a wide range of problems.
I'm impressed, really. It seems like AI is like popping up everywhere in cities these days.
And we're just getting started, really. There's so much more to explore.
This is definitely just the tip of the iceberg. We've covered a lot already, but I'm excited to dive deeper into some of these applications.
Let's do it. We've got some really fascinating examples coming up in part 2. So welcome back. We've been talking about all these different ways AI is being used in cities. And, one thing that keeps coming up is how crucial data is.
Yeah, you're right. It's like the foundation for a lot of these applications, right?
Exactly. AI needs data to learn and to make those smart decisions.
So can you kind of break it down for us? Like, why is data so important for AI to actually, like, work?
Okay, so imagine AI as a student learning a new skill. The more examples and information you give that student,
Yeah.
the better they'll understand the skill and be able to use it in different situations.
Right.
That's kind of what we're doing with AI and data. We're training AI systems by feeding them tons of data. And that's how they learn to recognize patterns and make predictions and actually solve problems.
Oh, that's a great analogy. So, like, the quality and the quantity of the data, that really matters, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just like with any learning process, if you're learning from bad information, your understanding is going to be messed up. That's definitely something to keep in mind as we talk about all these like amazing things AI can do.
Yeah, good point. Okay, so let's get back to some of those amazing things. Earlier, we were talking about how AI can actually make a real difference in people's lives. And one area that comes to mind is healthcare.
Definitely. And we found a really fascinating example in Houston where they integrated AI into their 911 system.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's interesting. So, like, does AI answer the calls now?
Well, not exactly,
Yeah.
but it does something maybe even more important. So the system, what it does is it uses AI to analyze the incoming calls and figure out which ones need the most urgent response.
So it can tell which situations are like life or death, even before a human operator can fully assess what's going on.
Exactly, yeah. It can like pick up on these really subtle cues in the caller's voice or even the background noise, and that can help get emergency responders dispatched even faster.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like using technology to like actually save lives.
Yeah, it's a really powerful example of how AI can be applied in those like really critical situations.
Oh,
And speaking of saving lives, AI was also used a lot during the pandemic to help track the spread of the virus.
oh yeah, I remember that. Weren't some cities using AI to like predict outbreaks?
Yeah, Boston used AI to analyze all sorts of data, like symptom reports and test results, and they used that to identify patterns and try to predict where the virus might surge next.
So they could like anticipate outbreaks and actually, do something before things got really bad.
Exactly. And that meant they could allocate resources better, like setting up testing sites in the right places, really focusing their efforts where they were needed most.
Wow, it really makes you realize how versatile AI is. It can be used for so many different things.
Absolutely. And it's not just about reacting to emergencies either. AI can also help cities plan for the future. Like, did you know New York City is using AI to inspect their infrastructure?
Wait, how do they use AI to inspect, like, a bridge?
So they have these drones equipped with cameras,
Mm.
and they also have AI-powered image recognition software. So the software analyzes the images and can detect tiny cracks or even like signs of wear and tear that a human inspector might miss.
So it's like having this, like, super inspector who can spot potential problems before they become serious.
Exactly. And that allows them to do repairs and maintenance before things get really bad.
Makes sense. It's like preventive healthcare for the city itself.
Yeah, I like that. And it's not just about maintaining what we already have, right?
Right.
Cities are also using AI to help plan for new development.
Oh, interesting. How's that working?
Well, Chicago's a good example. They're using AI to simulate the impact of new construction projects.
Oh, cool. So, like, before they even build something, they can see how it might affect things like traffic or pollution.
Yeah, that's the idea. They can use these simulations to make smarter decisions about how and where to develop the city.
It's like having a crystal ball for urban planning.
Exactly. It allows them to think about the long-term consequences of their decisions.
Okay, so we've talked about how AI can make cities safer, healthier, more efficient. But what about the people? Like, how can AI impact our daily lives, our interactions with the city?
That's a great question. And this is where things get really interesting. One example is AI-powered chatbots
Hmm.
for citizen services.
Yeah, I've seen those like on government websites and stuff. Are they actually helpful?
Some are better than others, for sure. But the idea is to give residents like 24/7 access to information and assistance with city services. Like in DC, they have this chatbot called Ask DC, and it can answer questions about trash pickup or permits, all sorts of things.
So it's like having a virtual city hall assistant right there in your pocket.
Exactly, yeah. And it can free up human staff to focus on the more complex stuff.
Oh, that's a great use of technology.
And another thing cities are doing is using AI to analyze public feedback from things like social media and surveys.
So they're using AI to like listen to their citizens.
In a way, yeah.
Mm.
By looking at all that data, they can get a better sense of what residents are concerned about,
Mm.
what they like, what they don't like.
That's a pretty cool. It could help make city governments more responsive to what people actually want.
That's the hope, yeah. It's
Yes.
about using technology to make things more citizen-centric.
Okay, so we've seen how AI can impact transportation, public safety, healthcare, even like trash collection.
It really does touch everything.
It does. And as we move into the future, I can only imagine we're going to see even more creative uses for AI in cities.
Oh, absolutely. We're just scratching the surface here.
This is definitely just the beginning. But before we get too carried away with all the possibilities, I think it's important to also talk about some of the potential challenges, the risks involved.
Right. You're absolutely right. It's not all sunshine and roses.
Yeah. This feels like a good place to, transition to the next part of our conversation.
I agree. We need to talk about some of the ethical and societal implications of all this.
So, welcome back. We've been talking about all the awesome ways AI is being used in cities. But like with any new technology, there's also like a flip side. Some things we need to be careful about.
Yeah, for sure. It's not all, flying cars and robot butlers.
Yeah.
We need to think about the potential downsides, too.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What are like the big challenges we should be thinking about when it comes to AI in cities?
Well, one that always comes up is jobs, right? As AI gets more and more sophisticated, some jobs that people do now could, be automated.
Yeah, that's a big concern for a lot of people. How can cities and, communities in general prepare for that?
Well, one thing is to start planning early. Invest in education and training programs. We need to help people develop the skills they'll need to thrive in a future where, AI is just part of the landscape.
So it's about adapting, right?
Yeah.
Making sure people have the tools they need to succeed in a world that's constantly changing.
Exactly. And it's not just about individuals either. Cities and governments need to be proactive too, fostering innovation, attracting new businesses, supporting workers as they transition to new roles.
Right, so it's like a shared responsibility. But are there risks beyond just job displacement, like other things we need to be aware of?
Oh, absolutely. We also need to be careful about, how WAI is being used, making
Mhm.
sure it's not being used in ways that could actually harm people or violate their rights. Ethical guidelines are super important.
That makes sense. I mean, we've seen how AI can do so much good in healthcare, safety, all sorts of areas. But we have to be cautious about, potential misuse.
Right. Imagine an AI system that's making decisions about, like, loan applications or
Mhm.
parole hearings. If that system isn't designed properly or if it's trained on biased data, it could end up making unfair decisions.
Oh, wow, that's a scary thought. So how do we like prevent that from happening?
Transparency is really important. We need to understand how these systems work, what data they're using, you know, and we need to have human oversight, people who can, step in if something's not right.
So it's about finding that balance, right? Between like the power of AI and human judgment.
Exactly. It's not about replacing humans entirely. It's about using AI as a tool to, help us make better decisions.
I'm hearing a lot about values in this conversation. Like the future of AI in cities isn't just about technology, it's about what kind of world we want to live in.
I totally agree. It's about using technology to create a better future, a future that works for everyone.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you really want our listeners to take away from this conversation?
Well, I think the main takeaway is that AI is a powerful tool with a ton of potential to make our lives better, make our cities better. But it's not a magic solution, and it comes with its own set of challenges. We need to be thoughtful about how we use it, make sure we're using it ethically, and really have a clear vision for the future we're trying to build.
That's a great point. It's not just about the technology itself, it's about, how we choose to use it. Well, thanks so much for this amazing conversation. I feel like I've learned so much.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And to all of our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into AI in cities. It's a fascinating topic, and we hope this has given you, some food for thought. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and most importantly, keep imagining the possibilities.